This podcast is brought to you by the School of Advanced Study, University of London.
Now we move to the second speaker, and we will have more time for discussions after. So, Sana bin Bari, the Association for Civil Rights in Israel, she will talk about legal aspects in the struggle of the Arab Bedouin community. Sana is a human rights attorney, has participated in several delegations to the UN, representing the case of the Naqab. In several United Nations forums, such as the UN Permanent Forum for Indigenous Issues that you mentioned earlier, Prawer. Sana''s main field of work focused primarily on the specific problems confronting the Naqab community, as well as women's issues in the Naqab. She currently works at the Association for Civil Rights in Israel, ACRI, where she is responsible for the rights of the Naqab Bedouin and the Arab Minority Rights Unit. So, 25 minutes, Sana, and then we'll open for questions. Thank you.
Hello. For some time I disliked the word Bedouin, because whenever I used to say Bedouins, people would drift and think of tan, desert, Arabic coffee, when the reality is far from the oriental picture some people have in mind. I would like in this short presentation to give you a broader picture of the legal, factual, and the planning situation in the Naqab. And of course the state's plans toward this community. So let's begin. I would like to say firstly that the existence of unrecognized Bedouin villages in the Naqab is a fact that is convenient for many Israelis to ignore. The Bedouin community is one of Israel's weakest communities, speaking economically and socially and politically. And in a sense, we could say that this is a community of citizens unseen, who constitute about a quarter of the population in the south, in the Naqab, and live only on a 3% of the land, of the total land. Nevertheless, like Ahmed has demonstrated, the state constantly seeking to reduce Bedouin presence in the Naqab, in the region, and has chosen to see us, the Bedouin, as trespassers, as people who steal land and who live illegally. So this is a quote of Moshe Dayan, which was a minister, and you can see what is the approach towards the Arab Bedouin community. Approach that wants to bring us, the primitive people, into what is called modern society. So, like I've said, we are being seen mostly as a demographic problem because we have a high birth rate. We are being seen as a security hazard because we are close to the borders, to the Gaza Strip, to the Egyptian border, to the Jordanian border, and of course the West Bank. And in best case scenario, we are being invisible to the state. And thus, since 1948, the Israeli government has ignored the Bedouin presence in the region and sought to concentrate the population into small geographical areas. Like Ahmed also have said, land is the fundamental problem in here. There is a very rooted perception of regarding who should own the land, and it is called in Hebrew in the Zionistic literature Gillat Haaretz, the liberation of the land, and should be owned by Jewish hands and not Arab ones. So, and we can see how Jewish who purchased land before the existence of the Israeli state has managed to register it, but when Arab wanted to register, he could not win the case. One of the most important strategies in my work is the tool of planning, which is an important struggle against discriminatory planning and to achieve recognition in the unrecognized villages. So the approved National Master Plan, as it says in the title, Metropolitan Regional Plan 414, represents the vision for the future development for the Naqab. It dictates pretty much everything, from land use to transportation, electricity, water, and industrial areas. The plan ignores the existence pretty much of the unrecognized villages. So it means, what it actually means that when the state wants to plan something in the south, they do not take into consideration the unrecognized villages. So instead of a village, they can plan a forest or a road. And in the year 2000, ACRI, the Association for Civil Rights, the organization I work for, petitioned the Supreme Court against this plan and sought the amendment of the plan and asked also that rural settlements will be planned for the Bedouin community. As a result of the petition, the Israeli authorities, planning authorities, committed themselves to, before the Supreme Court, to come up with a fair and appropriate solution. They have also promised that the planning process will be done along with the community, with the participation of Bedouins. But these obligations were not honored, and till this day, pretty much the plan ignores the unrecognized villages in the south. The contradiction can be demonstrated in the next case of Atir al-Hiran. Atir al-Hiran are twin villages based near the Jewish local council of Meitar and the township, the Arab Bedouin township called Hura. It was established by Israeli military order in 1956 after having their land confiscated and after having been forcibly moved from their original village, Khirbet Zbale, to the place they are living in from 56. The regional master plan for Beersheba, the one I mentioned, has designed this village, the home for 1,000 people, yes, as a site for the expansion of Yatir forest and the development of a new Jewish settlement, exclusively Jewish, that is called Khiran. On May 5th this year, after 13 years of delegation in the Supreme Court, the Israeli Supreme Court issued its final decision. The decision allows the Israeli government to carry out with this plan, with this very racist and dangerous plan, to demolish an entire village for the sole purpose of bringing Jewish new residents in there. But one important thing that the court has mentioned in his decision was that he admitted that the Bedouin residents are not invaders. They were put there by the military order, by the government, but the land is a state land. So now, after 60 years, the state can change her mind and use the land as they wish. So, but they did not ask why the new town had to replace an Arab village. So that is the most catastrophic thing about this decision. In this map you can see you have on the right Atir, down here you have al-Hiran, and the red lines are the master plan of the new Jewish settlement. So you can easily see that it could have been planned better, or not one replacing the other. So this continues directly the line of the discrimination and the unjust policy of the states toward the Arab Bedouin community, which basically today we have more than 100 Jewish settlements in the Naqab, of an average population of only 300 residents, while you have also dozens of farms for Jewish residents that were built illegally but were legalized by law afterwards. And they get all the facilities. They get electricity and water and every possible thing that a normal citizen is entitled for. I have this term also, that this data that can simply shows in a very broad aspect the Jewish settlements versus the Arab settlements. So you have 112 Jewish settlements versus 45 Arab settlements. You have the total population are 80,000 Arabs and 34,000 Jewish citizens. And you can see the gaps, the enormous gaps between the Jewish and the Arab townships. Also, in order to illustrate this line, I think one of the slogans that we always use is that the government is trying to put maximum population, Arab population, on minimum land. And in here, you can see that 60% of the total land in Israel is in the south. The Arab Bedouin are claiming 5.4% of the total land in the Naqab and live only on 3% of the total land. So in fact, we are talking about a very small percentages of the Arab Bedouin community claims. And this could be easily resolved if there was a negotiation or some kind of a wish to come to a reasonable solution. Nevertheless, I think that the government is realizing that the issue of the unrecognized villages could not continue. So in the past years, there has some recent development regarding the policy. And in late 2007, the government has voted to create a commission to make recommendations regarding the Bedouin issue, to solve the problem of the Bedouins in the Naqab. We are many times being referred to as a problem or a hazard that should be expelled. So that was in 2007. The proposed solution came in the shape of legislation, in the shape of a law. The main problems of the law, of the Prawer Plan law, that was a team that was appointed back in 2009. The main problem of the plan that it involves concentration of the Bedouin citizens into a limited and predefined area. That is the first problem. The second problem is basically the residents do not agree to this plan, so you will have to forcibly remove them from their houses. And we're talking about a massive evacuation of about 40,000 people. In December 2014, after the Prawer law was already in very advanced stages of legislation, the Prime Minister decided to freeze it. There was a very broad objection to it. And however, our optimism pretty much faded as the time goes by, because we can see that, however, the legislation is not coming into the Knesset for a vote, but we can see that the same ideas of evacuation, the same ideas of the process in planning, in the planning process, are pretty much the same. And it is still very much a discriminatory planning process, like we have seen in the Atir El-Hiram case, which seeks to concentrate population from the unrecognized villages to the 7 townships that today we have. And I think that despite the long journey we have been through, we will hear in the future about this law, and it will impact the Arab Bedouin community dramatically if it will pass in the Knesset. So what do we think that is a proper solution for us, the community? Over the years, we are always hearing the claim that you Bedouins also always object to plans. You never come up with a solution. So we came up with an alternative master plan to the state's proposal. Some NGOs, along with the unrecognized Council for the Unrecognized Villages, together with the NGOs, formulated a master plan that offers a professional solution. And it basically says, we have based this plan on the Israeli law, and we have come up with a detailed plan that shows that if you recognize the villages, the Arab Bedouin villages, it is feasible and desirable, and you have the space to do so. And I think that in the last note that we can see all over the world how indigenous groups have suffered from the colonialistic approaches towards it, and we do not want to be shoved into some kind of reservation as Indians or as the indigenous people in Australia and in America. And we see how much it affects them till this day. In the Naqab, the situation is still can be fixed with the right people to deal with this struggle. So I think that the community comes with a solution, with an alternative. The community comes with the will to negotiate, and it is only looking for someone to play along with it. That's it.